Now let's see what is the role played by Worldwide Fund, simply called as WWF. So normally this Worldwide Fund is an international, non-governmental, charitable, what we have actually trust, founded in 1961 with headquarters at Gland, Switzerland. So it is not government agency. It's not a governmental agency. So it is a non-governmental charitable trust founded in 1961 and its headquarters located in Gland, that is what we have Wall, Switzerland. Then what is its aim? It aims at wildlife conservation and the reduction of human impact on the environment. So these are the two aims of what is called WWF: wildlife conservation and the reduction of human impact. That is, we are producing impacts on the environment. So we have to conserve the environment instead of just producing effect on it, having some damage to the environment. Now it was formally named as World Wildlife Fund. Now it's called World Wide Fund. Formerly it was called World Wildlife Fund. Now the Living Planet report, that's what we call the Earth, is being normally just published once in every 2 years by only WWF since 1968. Since 1998. So, the Living Planet report about our living place, the Earth, is being published every 2 years by WWF since 1998. Okay, that's about the role. Now, what is the vision of WWF? What it for? Now, the vision of WWF is to conserve nature. And number two, to reduce the most pressing threats to the biodiversity of life. How? By protecting the various most important ecological regions and also protecting the habitats, protecting the species and their habitats, etc. I'll proceed now. So the vision of WWF is to conserve nature and to reduce the most pressing threats to the biodiversity of life by the following ways. Now the vision of WWF is to conserve nature and reduce the pressure on the threats of biodiversity of life. I mentioned how? By conserving the world's most ecologically important regions. By this method, they conserve what is called actually, that is nature. Then protect and restore species and their habitat. These are all the methods adapted to conserve what we call the nature and then just avoid threats of biodiversity of life. Okay, protect and restore species and their habitats. Strengthens the local community's ability to conserve the natural resources they depend upon. They are motivated to conserve the natural resources because they have the ability, but they do not know their ability, so they have to be motivated. So their ability is to be expressed to conserve the nature. Then, to ensure that the value of nature is reflected in decision, to ensure that the value of nature is reflected in decision. The value of nature should be reflected. That is in decision making, in decision. Those decisions made by what we call the individuals, the communities, the governments, and the business. So these are some of the actually the important role of WWF. It has a vision. What vision? To conserve nature and reduces threats of what is called biodiversity of life on this earth by the following ways. Now another one also we have role of CITES. This is a convention. Now what is the expansion of CITES? Now the Convention on International Trade, the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, that is called CITES. Now this is a convention on international trade in endangered species of wild fauna and flora. Now it is named also Washington Convention. It is also named as Washington Convention. So the CITES, Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, is also called as Washington Convention because it was conducted, that convention was normally occurred in Washington. So it is a multilateral treaty means agreement. What for? To protect endangered plants and animals. To protect endangered plants and animals, there is a main treaty, the agreement made by different people. They made a convention, attended the convention, and made the decision. So normally it was drafted, that is in resolution, adopted in a meeting of members of IUCN in 1963, and then it was open to signature in 1973, and it came into force in 1975. So that actually the treaty is based on the draft of resolution adopted in a meeting of members in International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources in 1973. Then it was open to signature in 1963. It was open to signature in 1973. It was conducted in 1963. That is, a resolution was made in 1963. Then it was open to signature to different countries for acceptance in 1973. And it came into force in 1975. Now we have to know the aim of what is called the CITES also. Now we are talking about CITES. We are talking about CITES. Now it was drafted from a resolution adopted just from a meeting of the members of IUCN in 1963 and open for signature for acceptance in 1973. So drafted in 1963, open for vote or signature in 1973 from different just countries. It came into force during July 1975. What is its aim? So it aims to ensure that the international trade in what we have the specimens, we are just actually trading the specimens of wild animals and plants. While trading, just marketing the specimens of wild animals and plants, the trade should not normally a threat, should not be a threat. What? In the survival of the species in the wild. While just the trade is performed just for importing or exporting what we have the specimens of what we have plants and animals, it should not be a threat to the survival of the species of plants and animals in the wild. That is one. And it accords varying degrees of protection to more than 35,000 species of plants and animals. Okay, that's its importance. So while just trade is performed, it should not actually just disturb the survival of the species in the wild, and it occurs about varying degrees of protection of more than 35,000, that is species of plants and animals. Students, we have to continue the lesson biodiversity and its conservation, and here now we have to talk about restoration of degraded habitats. How to restore the degraded habitats. That is biodiversity conservation through one strategy. The name of the strategy is eco-development. One project. The name of the project is Forestry Research Education and Extension Project. Simply called as FREEP. Forestry Research Education and Extension Project. So it is in India is employing a strategy for the conservation of the plant, for the conservation of the forest, and that strategy is called eco-development. What is eco-development? It enlists local commodities, that is article of trade, that is what you know, the various trades, for preservation of biodiversity. It enlists that what we have the local commodities in villages and the place where we have the forest is available for the preservation of biodiversity. Now, what is the strategy that is normally involved in this eco-development? The strategies involve developing resources and sources of income for those people who depend on the protected areas. Say an example of the forest. for their livelihood. That is the main aim of eco-development. We are conserving the biodiversity as well as providing resources and sources of income to those people who depend on what we call the biodiversity, or we can say the protected areas. They are nothing but the forests. So we have to provide some alternatives, otherwise their livelihood is a question. Now, there is a program by this what is called the free and helping the people in villages nearby what we call the protected areas. Now, what is the role of that is forestry, research, education, and extension project? So, this free is conducting a pilot eco-development. Pilot means the first. Initiate eco-development program in one area in Tamil Nadu that is called Mundane Tiger Reserve. Mundane Tiger Reserve in Tamil Nadu, aptly called KMTR. Now, if you analyze the nature of the reserve, this reserve contains a unique and varied array of flora ranging from thorn and dry teak to what is called tropical evergreen and supporting a richness of mammals and birds, including the elephants, the leopards, and also what we call the tigers. Okay, there is a reserve located in Mundane. That is what's called the Mundane Project Reserve, where you have the tiger is available. Now, this is the last tiger refuge in Tamil Nadu. The last tiger refuge in Tamil Nadu. That is a KMTR. So, it is one of what is called 50 sites under the Indian governments. That is what we have a program, a project called a Project Tiger. It's a program receiving international assistance. What for? To enhance tiger habitat. So anyway, now it is the last tiger refuge, that is Mundane Tiger Reserve in Tamil Nadu. That is a KMTR. So it is one of 50 sites under the Government of India's Project Tiger. That is what we have one project. And that is a program receiving international assistance. What for? To enhance tiger habitat. Okay. Over 100 villages are participating in that program. That is in KMTR program. Mundane, just what we have Tiger Reserve program. So it's a part of that one eco-development. Now you see that one, what are they doing? So the communities and individual farmers have planted fuel wood and fodder plantations. This is number one. Some villages have installed cow dung gas plant for home fuel needs, and others are using fuel saving pressure cookers and more efficient wood burning what is called the stoves. They are called what is known as smokeless chulas. In Tamil, chulas. More efficient wood burning stoves. That is number two. Number three. So in that program, loans for a wide array of alternative income generating activities are made available. What are the income generating activities? You see that one, dairy and poultry farming. Then we have what's called tailoring, coconut leaf weaving, because they are not educated people. They have to be given some jobs. For that one, they have to be given loans. So loans are made available for doing their just alternative incomes to generate it. Coconut leaf weaving, and also we have setting up tea and dry goods shops. These are all made available through loans for these people. Thus, the eco-development program at the KMTR is rapidly coming to be seen as a model for the conservation of biological diversity. So it is a model. This KMTR is a model for conserving biodiversity through local participation with the help of the local people then the interaction with what we call the government. Now, just actually the eco development that is in KMTR has been maintained. That's about the eco development program. That is what we have. Something about the research. There is a forest and research, education and extension project. Now next we have to go for the Biodiversity Act that is implemented in India, and also the authority, National Biodiversity Authority, where is it located, what's its role, etc. Now the Convention on Biological Diversity, CBD, I'll give more information about CBD later, is a United Nations initiative. What for? To protect biodiversity and encourage the sustainable use of biological resources. Sustainable use means not exploiting the entire bioresource. That is taking the sources, the resources as an optimal level for livelihood, not exploiting the whole biosphere reserve. Taking only the optimum conditions or optimum level of what we have the resources for utilization for livelihood. So encourage the sustainable use of resources. Now the convention, what is called actually the Biodiversity Act Convention, simply called as Convention on Biological Diversity, what is called CBD. The CBD was held at the Earth Summit, that is in Brazil, November 1992. India is a signatory of CBD, one of the just actually controlling what is called the country of CBD. So the convention was held in 1992 at the Earth Summit in Brazil, the year just 1992. Now let's see something about the Biological Diversity Act of Parliament of India. Now the Biological Diversity Act 2002 is an act of Parliament of India. Now normally it is made, one, for preservation of biological diversity in India. Number two, provides mechanisms for equitable sharing of benefits arising out the use of traditional what we have biological resources and knowledge. Equitable sharing for all. It's not belonging to only one group of people, one country, but it is equally shared for all the people. The resources, the benefits what we are getting from the resources should be equally shared for all the people, irrespective of the caste, creeds, and also other religious factors. Now the act was enacted, what for? To meet the obligations. What are the obligations? What we need? Under Convention on Biological Diversity. We have under the conditions made by biological diversity, to which India is also a party. So the act was enacted to meet the obligations, the requirements, under the conditions of CBD, in which India is a party. Now the next one, the National Biodiversity Authority, NBA, the National Biodiversity Authority of India. It was normally established by the central government in 2003, Central Government of India in 2003, to implement Biological Diversity Act. So the Biological Diversity Act was normally that is made in 2002 to just implement this Biological Diversity Act. The National Biodiversity Authority was established by the Central Government of India in 2003. So the act was made in 2002. Then this NBA was established just what we have to implement biological diversity in India. That's about NBA. So we are talking about NBA. Now the national, you know that one, Biodiversity Authority. It's a statutory body, a permanent body, and it performs facilitative, that is regulatory and advisory functions. What are the functions? So it is normally doing such functions for the government of India based on certain issues. What are the issues being solved by this one? Conservation. Number two, sustainable use of resources. And number three, fair and equitable sharing of benefits arising out of the use of biological resources. So conservation, sustainable use of resources, equal sharing of what we have the resources. Now the headquarters of NBA is located in Chennai. Now we have to go for a few words about Convention on Biological Diversity or CBD. We have to go for CBD, Zoological Survey of India and Project Tiger. These are all the three things to be covered. A few words. Now the United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity, simply called as CBD, was signed by India and 172 other countries when the nations on December 29, 1993. That was the date of establishment of CBD. So we have nearly about 173 member countries including India. Now CBD, that is a historical treaty. It recognizes sovereign right of nation over genetic resources. That's number one. And also considers appropriate access over genetic resources. Now the treaty also takes into account the fair and what we have equitable sharing of benefits. These are all the things to be followed according to the CBD arising from the use of genetic resources. So number one, that is what we have sovereign right of nation over genetic resources. Then number two, appropriate access over genetic resources. And number three, equitable sharing of benefits that are obtained from what we have the genetic resources. Now we have to go for a few words about Zoological Survey of India. What is ZSI and also the objectives. Now it was established in 1916. What for? To promote survey, exploration and research, leading to advancement in our of knowledge of various aspects of biodiversity in our country. So it is meant for normally just to know about various aspects of knowledge related to the biological diversity in our country. Now, what are the objectives of Zoological Survey of India? A few objectives are given in the book. Now we are talking about ZSI, the Zoological Survey of India. What are the objectives of ZSI? Number one, exploration, survey, inventorying, and monitoring of faunal diversity, where in various systems, in various states, ecosystems, and protected areas of India. The protected areas, nothing but you know that one, wildlife sanctuaries, biosphere reserves, etc. Number two, periodic review of the status of threatened species and endemic species. Periodic review. What about the endangered species in a particular area, the threatened species in a particular area? We have to make a review periodically to assess the conditions of threatened and endemic species. Then preparation of red data book and fauna of India. So that is, it is involved in the preparation of red data book of threatened species of 8 varieties and also the fauna of India. Then biological studies on selected important species. Very important species have to be studied. They are being selected and studied. Therefore, what is called is the SI. Then maintenance and development of national zoological collection. Maintenance and development of national zoological collections of animals. Okay, that's about what we have Zoological Survey of India. Now we have to go for a few words about Project Tiger. So Project Tiger is referring to what we call the conservation and preservation of the tiger, the national animal of India, in their original habitats without being what is called reduced in number. Now the government of India launched Project Tiger in 1973. What for? To protect our national animal. To protect our national animals. So now actually we started with Project Tiger since 73. We started with 9, just what we got Tiger Project, a Project Tiger reserves. Now it has been increased to 50. And we have to go for a few characteristics of this Project Tiger. Now we are talking about the Project Tiger. Since from the inception of Project Tiger, at the beginning it was only 9. Now it is increased to 50 Project Tiger reserves at present. Now this Project Tiger was launched in the Jim Corbett National Park, Uttarakhand in 1973. The National Tiger Conservation Authority, what is called NTCA, is a statutory body, a permanent body of the Ministry of India, created under the Wildlife Protection Act. Created the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, NTCA. According to the latest tiger census report released on 20th January 2015 by NTCA, that is National Tiger Conservation Authority, the current tiger population is about or estimated about 2212. There is a number of tiger population that is the country as per NTCA, National Tiger Conservation Authority of India. That's all about we have biodiversity and its conservation. I concluded the lesson. Okay, and I have to proceed some more points for you, that is a pure science students, in evolution, and then what we have in principle of inheritance. A few just questions related to, and that are the last parts we have to conclude. I would like to take that one in the next class. Okay, thank you.